Make sure that I got live on Facebook. So let me click live there. Go live. All right, so we are live across all platforms. Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday edition of KW Command Launch, which is, believe it or not, day 15 of the command classes that we've been doing dating back to March 18th. You know, some people out there have their 66-day challenge, where we're on our 15-day challenge right now of 1 hour in-depth live looks inside of what command can do for you and your business. And we're going to keep going and keep talking about this as best we can and come up with creative deep dive looks into everything that you guys can get your hands on as they're rolled out and launched live for you. Today, we have back Kyle Holloran with the Virginia Alliance Group, and he's going to be taking a look inside of buyers and listing presentations for us. As always, it is recorded. We do encourage your engagement, so please mute yourself when you're not asking questions. Throw questions into the chat room during the event. We will pause and ask and answer as best we can. This is recorded, so that will be posted on our Facebook page. And coming next week, we'll have a regional YouTube tech channel with all these classes that we've been recording will be posted up there for you to watch on a more regular basis, because I know you guys are looking for some binge watching outside of Tiger King. So with that, Kyle, take it away and maybe give everyone a quick introduction to those of us that don't know who you are.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kyle Exotic. I am here to, no, I'm joking. Nope, my name is Kyle Holloran. I've been with KW for 11 years now. I was an agent, I had a team, and then I also was a team leader for 5 years, both in the Richmond Market Center and then up here in the Fairfax Market Center. So now I'm the Director of Technology for market centers, and I help them just onboard onto command and answer questions and do what I can to support all the agents. So command is my full-time gig. So I'm excited that David invited me back again to kind of go over this class and help you guys kind of jump into designs and see what we have available to us when it comes to buying and selling guides. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now raise a hand for those that I can see on the screen. How many of you guys have actually gone in and worked on the listing and the buyer presentation guides within designs? Anybody done that yet? All right, so I see David raised his hand. Perfect. A lot of other people are shaking their head no, so that's great. So hopefully this will be some good information for everybody. And maybe I could show David a couple different tricks and tips that he may not have caught yet. That's in there. Now, one of the big reasons I talked to David about doing this class was because where we're doing virtual buyer and seller consultations right now, you know, whatever you're sharing with those potential clients, I think it needs to look good, right? And so I believe that KW Designs, the design team there, has created some really good guides for us that we can go in and customize. And then just like we're doing on the Zoom right now, where you guys can see my screen, you know, you can share your guide as a PDF, and you can toggle through that guide and use it as a kind of a talking point as you're going throughout your consultation with either buyers or sellers. Okay, so that's why I decided, you know, David asked me to jump in, that this might be a good one today. We've got a lot of agents that are creating their guides, and if you create it one time basically and put in all your information, you can save it, and then if you'd like to, you can kind of duplicate that guide and add in someone's name and kind of make it personalized to them. So this is not something you'd have to do every single time, but if you could time block an hour or so and go in and customize this guide with your pictures and contact information, then I think it's a great system to repeat over and over again, and not a lot of thought needs to go into it. So when I was in sales, I used to print out buyer and seller guides and leave them on my desk, so I don't have to worry about printing them every time I had a meeting, and I would just grab one and go. So we're gonna do the same thing today, except this is gonna be a digital copy. And whenever we get back to normal and you're back meeting with buyers and sellers in their houses, this will be something that you can obviously print. So we'll save it as a PDF, so you can get a little bit of a head start on it now. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. And we do have the chat feature there. So David, I know, will monitor that for me a little bit. If we get some good conversation in there, we can stop and address, and then I'll stop and answer questions as we go. All right, guys, so we're gonna start in command. I think most of you that are on this call probably know how to get there, but I always like to point out, right, agent.kw.com. Log in with your same credentials you do for all of your other KW products. So today, we're gonna spend almost all of our time in the applet called Designs. Okay, so what I just did there was, just so you see, I click on that little red KW button up top. It punches out all the names of the different applets. And then once you get used to all the different names, you can punch them back in. So we're going to spend our time today in designs. All right, so we'll go ahead and click on designs, and it will open up this screen here. Now, if you're following along with me at home, as long as you see my design templates, this header up top here, you're in the right spot. These here are all designs that I have created. So these are my saved designs that are in the middle of the screen. But again, as long as you see this up top, you know you're in the right spot. All right, so to get started with either a buyer or a seller guide, you're going to start down at the bottom right-hand corner. You all should see this little plus sign down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Go ahead and click on that plus sign, and this box will pop up. And it says, what are you trying to create, basically? So the buyer and the seller guides are in the print section of designs. All right, so even though we're going to be doing this virtually and kind of downloading it onto our computer, a lot of the digital stuff is here on social, but what we're going to go into today is going to be on print. Okay, so plus button, we're in designs, plus button down the bottom right corner, click on print. You'll see it highlights, and then you can go ahead and hit on next, right? And that's going to go ahead and open up WeBrand, which is the company that we built this product with at KW, and we'll get to that landing screen there. So while that loads up, just really quickly, any questions so far on how to get into designs? Everybody good? Okay, perfect. All right, so when we get into designs here, you will see that they recently, about a month ago, they kind of reorganized the way that all of this is portrayed to you. And so the first thing you want to do is you're going to decide, all right, what am I trying to create? All right, so in this case, I want to point out here that if you click on listings, under the listings tab, you will see that we have two, it says right here in the little caret, right, 2 listing presentations for you to potentially use. All right, so we're going to go back. We're going to go into both of them today. So that's where your listing presentation is. And if I click on that, you'll then see I have 2 listing presentation templates that I could choose from. So there is a one that they call modern, the black one here, and then one that they call classic. In the upper left-hand corner, you will see how many pages are part of this guide. So in this case here, it's showing us that there are 28 pages to this listing presentation, both the modern and the classic. Now we're going to come back to listing presentation in just a minute. If I go down to buyer, right, that's where you're going to find the 2 buyer presentations. Okay, so we click on buyer, I then have buyer presentation here, and I have 2 of them here. And same thing, I've got a classic version, that's the white version, and I've got another one that's called modern over here, that's the black version. So this one is 31 pages, and this one is 31 pages as well. Now, what I'm going to show you is you get to choose which of these 31 pages that you want to actually have in your guide, right? So they're giving you 31 pages, and you are able to go in and select which are the ones that fit your presentation best. So let's go ahead and start out with the buyer presentation. All right. Now, doesn't really matter. You can go in and click on each one and look at all the different pages and get an idea of which one you might like better. Let's go ahead and click on the classic one here. So that's the white one. And if that's the one I want to customize and create, I'm going to click on use in the upper right-hand corner. All right. So find your guide, and then you're going to go ahead and click on use. And that will allow you now to begin editing this guide. Now, before we even get in and start editing the guide, I want to go over the way that this design is laid out within designs, because it's a little bit different than the postcards and a lot of the other things that we see out there. Images, text, icons, logos, and KWLS over here on the left, right? That's what we see in most all of the designs that we go in and edit. For these buyer and seller guides, you will notice that there is an additional little link up here that says templates. Okay, so just wanted to point that out to everybody. If I'm highlighted on templates, this over here is what they kind of call a tray, right? And in this tray, you will see as I start scrolling down, these are the 31 pages that are part of this guide. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to decide which of these pages would you like in your presentation. So you do not start with 31 pages. You actually start with a blank template. And then it's the agent's responsibility to then go through these pages and decide which ones do they want to go ahead and bring over. So I've been talking to some agents this week, and they've said, 31 pages is a lot to toggle through when you're doing a virtual consultation, right? You don't want someone staring at a page the entire time rather than listening to you. And so I've seen some people, they've created a guide that only has 12 pages, right? And they've gone in and picked out the best 12 pages that they think are going to bring value in that buyer consultation. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And even before we do that, I also want to point down here at the very bottom, you'll see it says pages. All right, this is a very important button. It's a little bit hidden down there in the corner, but this is a very important button. This will allow us to go back to pages that we have created ourselves. We can move pages around, and so I'll show you that tool in just a second, but I wanted to point out it was down there. Now, the first 2 pages of the buyer guide are actually instructions to you, the agent. So if you go in and read these 2 pages right here, this is telling you how to work designs and how to create your buyer consultation. So make sure that you don't bring over this page because if you share that on the screen, it's not really client facing, it's more agent facing. So just be aware of that. So I'm actually going to skip down to page number 3, and you can see here that that's kind of the front page. So all I do is click on that page, right? And you will see that it's going to grab it out of the tray and it will move it over onto the right-hand side for me here to begin editing this page, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to come down this list here and let's grab a couple. So let's say we're going to do this first page, and then I want to do a table of contents potentially, right? That'll add it over there. So now I've got basically 2 pages inside of my design. I can keep scrolling down. So there's a page here that says your needs come first. I'll go ahead and select that one. And again, this will take just a few minutes for you guys to kind of go through and look at, but there are some really good ones in here. So they have some great questions about your home. You know, what kind of, what's your wish list? They have, as you continue to scroll down, they have information about, you know, neighborhoods, mapping out your move. They've got some sections in here for insights that you can do. They've also got some great documents in here about the process of buying a home. So if I go ahead and add that one, you can see over here, if I zoom in a little bit on this document. So the best way to zoom in on this so I can get closer and I can edit this is in the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see a little zoom button, and I can go ahead and zoom in on that document, and obviously the text will get bigger, and I can then look at it. So here it's talking about, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to partner with an agent. Next, you need to get pre-approved for a loan. So again, if I'm having a virtual consultation with somebody, this might be the document that I have up as we're discussing the different steps of purchasing a home, okay? So let's just go ahead and add a few more. That's what I would suggest you do first is pull over all the pages that you want in that presentation. They've got one here about financing your home and all about some different mortgage information. And let's scroll down. So they've got some documents here about what's the advantage of working with you, right? Keller Williams being your trusted partner. You have an opportunity here to put in some reviews. And then let's go ahead and add in some commonly used terms in real estate. Might be a good one to add in there. And then maybe the final page. All right, so that's the first step is just go through and select the documents that you want in the presentation itself. All right, so we'll let that go ahead and load up. So now down at the bottom here, you can see that I've added in 10 different pages. All right, so you can see that right down here at the bottom, 10 different pages. And if I click on this pages icon, it's gonna pop up, and there are the 10 pages that I just added to my presentation, okay? So if you've already added the page, don't go back and click it in the tray, because when you click it in the tray, you add another version of the same document again, all right? So down here, you will see that there's always a blank page. So because there is not a page that starts out the consultation, KW has this blank page in here. So what you want to do is make sure you go in, and you'll see that when I hover over top of one of these pages, there's a little arrow. And if I click that down arrow, it'll allow me to delete that page. So same thing. Let's say I went and I brought in a page, and then I looked at it here in a bigger view, and I said, you know what? I don't want this glossary of terms, of real estate terms. This is where you come back to delete it, right? So I can come over here and I can click on delete. All right. Now, if you were going through this tray of the different options you have to add to this document, and you realize that they were out of order, all you have to do is grab the page, and you can now drag and drop that and move them around so that they're in order, right? So if I brought in a page and I said, hey, you know what? I really want that glossary of terms to be like the first thing that we talk about. You can move that up and make it now page number 3. All right, so that's how you can shuffle pages around. Everybody good on that so far? So let me go ahead and stop there, because a lot of times this is where people get messed up. Any questions on grabbing documents from the left and then creating your guide over here on the right. Everybody's good so far? Okay, perfect. So let's keep rolling. So I'm going to go to the first page, right? So as I come back in here, again, I'll click on number 1 here, and it'll pull up, right? It'll pull up this page. So let's go back to number 1. There it goes. Okay. So here is where it says client name. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this document here. And this is where it says a custom consultation prepared for somebody. All right. So if you wanted to leave it just saying the actual words client name and save this as a master copy, you could go ahead and do that. And then let's say I go in and I set up a buyer consultation with David, right? I can actually duplicate this document and come in and customize it for David. So I'd be able to come in here and click on this text right here and be able to edit that. And there's actually 2 ways to do that. So I can come in and say David, that's his first name. And then I also want to show you a little trick if you haven't seen this yet. If you click on any text box within designs, when I click on that text box, I will get a header up here with formatting options. And one of them right here in the middle says typewriter. And so if you have trouble double clicking in the text boxes to try to get your cursor where you want it to go or type out your text, again, once you highlight a text box, click on typewriter, and it'll actually open up like a Word document for you. And you can just easily text in here now or type in here now. So I'll say Tunnicliffe, make sure I spelled Dave's name correctly, and then I come down here and I can click on Save Changes. And as soon as I click Save Changes, you can see it replaced the text that was on the document originally. Now I can drag out that text box, obviously, so we can get everything on one line. And now you can start to see how this is a custom page for David in our virtual buyer consultation. Now, this picture here, you can change this picture. And so if you go ahead and click on images, that's the image that comes along with the document. But again, if I just click on that, I'll get this little checkered box that will go around the photo. And just to make sure everyone knows, if you go over here to company, inside of the images tab, right? So you have add, company, and my library. You have 3 different tabs. These are photos that I've added into my library so that they'll always live here. But if you click on company and click on KW stock images, you actually will get about 150 different photos that KW has bought the rights to that you could switch the picture to make it more applicable to whoever you're getting ready to speak to. So again, all I have to do here is click on the picture of the guide, and then I'll come over to this section over here and I'll say, you know what, I want it to be this photo for whatever reason. And you can see here, because I'm clicked on the picture, I now have a little icon that says replace. So I'll click off of the photo for just a second. So if I click off of the picture and I hover over top of a picture, you'll see I only have a plus button, which means I can add it to the document. But if I actually click on the photo in my document and I come back over to my pictures, you'll see that I have a replace button now. And all I have to do is just say, hey, let's replace it with this image. And you can see that I just replaced the image on that document with the picture that I selected. Okay, so that's how you can change your different photos. Now, again, I'm probably going to come in here one time and I'm going to click on this DBA logo, right? And just like the image section, if I click on that DBA logo, I can now go over here and I will click on icons, right? And I can go, logos right here. So I can click on logos, and I have uploaded my Keller Williams Fairfax Gateway logos into my library. So if you'd like for your logos to stay here and be able to use them for every one of the designs that you create, go down here to the bottom, click on Add to Library, and you have the option to upload 4 different logos into this section, right? And then once you do that and you click on Save, then they will always live here and you don't need to upload them every time you're creating a design. So again, I clicked on the DBA logo here, and because I did that, again, when I hover over top of my logo, I have a replace button. And so I can click replace and it'll switch out that logo and it'll become the Keller Williams Fairfax Gateway logo, right? And I'll just readjust that and make sure that that looks good. Okay. Then I'll come over here and it says Royal Realtors, and that's a logo for a team. I don't have a team logo. So instead of replacing this image, I can simply click on it and click delete, right? And go ahead and delete out that frame right there. And now, again, I'm starting to get a nice customized buyer front cover for this consultation. Right down here at the bottom, if I click on the headshot, right? So I'm going to click on this lady's headshot right here. And if I go back to the images tab and I click on my library, there's my headshot. So all I have to do is click on replace, right? And it replaces my headshot. Now, hopefully what you guys understand is if you spend time to do this one time and you save this buyer consultation, once you put in your headshot and your logos once, you don't have to do it every single time. And then I'll just duplicate this and customize it for the person, and all of my saved changes will be there. All right, so last thing I'll come in here and do is just I'll change the name. So again, I can double click on that text box and say Kyle. Go over here to last name, click on this, and type in my last name if I wanted to do that, and then also change the address and such to my office. Okay, so that's just a quick show of how you're going to go ahead and customize one of these pages. Now, I'm going to come back down below here, so be careful, because what some agents will do is they'll say, okay, great, I did page number 1. And so I'm going to come back up to the tray here. And so remember that you've already added pages to your presentation. So if I click on pages, I'm going to say, great, now I want to go work on page number 2. And I'm going to click it down here in this little tray. And so in here now, again, everything in here is editable. So I could change the table of contents. I could change this to say, you know, what we will talk about today. What we will discuss today. And hit save changes. And I can pull that out, right? And I can delete out table of. So again, hopefully you guys see that these are just templates. Everything that we have in here is customizable. I can move it around. I can click on this text box. I can center my text, right? So I can say I'd like to center that text in that text box. I'd like to make it bold, all right? I can change all of my different tables of contents. So if you did not add all of the different pages in, then be sure, right, that these table of contents mimic what is actually in your presentation that you're creating. Okay. Now I'm going to go down below here and I can just click this little arrow and say, let's go to the next page. So I can click on this little arrow. It'll pull up this form here. And again, I can go in and either use this, what KW has given me. Something like this, I'm probably not going to edit very much. That seems like a lot of work. Let KW tell somebody what a down payment and earnest money deposit are. But if there's anything that's different about the state that you work in, whether it be Virginia or West Virginia, if you need to go in and change the way that maybe settlements work, right? Then you can go in and edit any of that information in there as well. So just remember, guys, that if you want to go back and edit that first page, don't come over here and click on it here, because this will add another page to your document. Your edited document is down here in this bottom tray. And so I've seen that a lot. That's probably the most common mistake I've seen is, hey, I edited the first page. When I come over here and click on the first page again, it brings back a new page that is unedited, right? So instead, I'm going to click on this document here, and that'll pull back up my first page that has David's name on it and my photo and my different TBA logo. Okay, so you're simply going to go through this entire guide here, and this is where I was saying time block an hour or so to do this. Go through this guide, and you can customize it to your business. Okay, any questions on that, just in terms of pulling over the documents and then toggling through and customizing these different pages? Let's go ahead and take a stop there. I see a bunch of chats coming in. What questions do you guys have if you guys want to open up your lines? All right, let's see. We have.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Matt, called out of Falls Church. Hey, I was about a minute late getting on. I had some trouble getting on. Which icon under command did you click on to get to all this? I missed that part.
Sure. So you're going to click on designs, right? Looks like a little easel with the pencil on the left-hand side over there.
Okay.
Once you click on designs, click on the plus sign in the bottom right-hand corner, and we're in the print section of designs.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So I see here team name, associate name, buyer's consultation. Exactly, right? So you can put in the team name if you work on a team. If you print these for grab and go, what do you recommend putting in for the name section? So I think Dave is obviously answering some of those questions on there. So some great ideas. Yeah. So this can either be customized or you can just create one, right? And make it very generic. Instead of having to duplicate it and customize it, I just have one buyer or seller consultation that I go over with everybody. Okay. Now let's go through, let's make sure a couple of these different pages here. You obviously can put in things like stats, right? So you can put in some different stats. This is the home buying process, right? So it says 1, find an agent, 2, get pre-approved for a loan. So if you wanted to, you could obviously delete out any of these different steps here, or you can add steps to this. You could add your lender's information if you wanted to, maybe right below that. So if you work with a lender and you wanted to put your 3 preferred lenders on here with contact information, you could easily come over here and click on the text box, right? And that'll give you some options to add in some different text. All right, so I'll say add, and it'll say, all right, do you want to do title, subtitle? So I can click on subtitle there, brings over a text box, right? I can pull that down. I can make the font smaller. Right, so I go down to something like this. I could double click on that and say my preferred lenders, right? And again, I'll show you that little typewriter tool again. So instead of typing all that out, I can just say my preferred lenders. And, you know, Jeremy Johnson, McLean, mortgage with a phone number, right? And have 3 or 4 different lenders in there. Click on Save Changes. And now, right, I'd have that formatted the way that it was in that little text box. Okay. So that's how you add text above and beyond editing what you already have here. You can add different text. And again,
this is Lourdes. Where do you go to add that text?
Sure. So let me go back and I'll show you that again. So if I wanted to add text, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side, and you can see I've got these 3 different tabs. One of them says text. So if I click on text, you will see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs. So there it says add, banners, company, and my library. If you go to add, you can add one of these 3. So I'll click on subtitle or maybe body text. And when I click on it, it'll bring a text box over that I can now drag and drop around on the document. Okay. If you click on banners, do we have any Canva users in here? Anybody use Canva?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, perfect. So just like in Canva, right? If you click on the banners tab underneath of text, you have these different banners that are already created for you. All right, so you have these different options here that show, you know, different designs, different text options. So instead of doing something like this, right, I could delete this text box, and I could bring in maybe something like this, right? Kind of jazz it up a little bit if I wanted to, right? So you have all these different text options over here. And then again, I can grab this, I can drag it around. I can grab the corner of the text and I can make the text smaller, right? So a couple different options there about how you can add text to this document. Okay. The other option too, just so you know, let's say it's not going to be text. Let's say you want to add a picture. So again, if you go back over here, so let's click out of this little box here, and we will go to, where's our photos? We're missing a tab over here. Okay, well, we'll keep going. We'll see if that comes back here in just a second. All right, so that's your page there. Now also remember that if you click on, there it goes. So if you click on an image, right, you have the images tab pops up over here. I just showed you where underneath the company tab, you have all these different stock images, but also remember that you can add any picture that you want by dragging and dropping it here. So if I wanted to bring in a photo of another property that I listed, right, I could go ahead and drag and drop that in. I can drag it over here and drop it into that different photo frame, right? In addition, let's say I wanted to put my picture of my lender down here at the bottom. So when you click off of the page, and I'm not actually in a text box or in the photo section, you'll see that it says drawing, shapes, frames, and text. So you can also add from up here. Frames are basically photo frames. So this works just like Canva. So if I go in here, I can say, hey, I want to grab this little circle, right? That's a photo frame. I can shrink it down, and then I can move this photo frame around on the document. So let's say I want to do something like this, right? So I can put it down here at the bottom, and then I can drag and drop a picture, right, into that little photo frame. So if I wanted to put in my lender's photo, you guys can see what I just did there. When I click on the picture, it'll actually bring it into that photo frame and format it for me. And then I can obviously still move this around, make it bigger, make it smaller. There's some funny shapes in here. So when I teach the class in my market centers, I usually, you know, we'll put my face in a little heart over here, right? So you can play around with this, right? And there's some different things that you can do. So those are photo frames. They work just like they do in Canva. The other option up here is it says shapes. So remember, frames are for photos. Shapes are exactly what it sounds like. So if I wanted to put a shape in here, let me delete out that picture. I could say, hey, I want to put in a shape that is, I don't know, looks like this, right? And I could drop a shape in. Okay, so it's obviously the default color of that shape is blue. I can drag and drop this. So if I want to make a little bit of a rectangle down here, I could do that. And then you can actually add text on top of that. But I would also like to point out that if you click on the shape, okay, up top here, you get a couple different tools. So one of them says opacity, one allows you to change the color. And so let's say this blue obviously does not work well with the rest of the color scheme that is in this guide. So once I click on that shape, if I simply click on fill color here, I can actually go in and choose a different color. So let me go ahead and choose that one, right? So it's a little bit of that pinkish red color. And then I can lay text on top of that. So if I wanted to lay text on top of that, I could now come down here, right? And add something in here, right? So call me today, whatever you're gonna type, right? Whatever makes sense. Now remember, now that I'm highlighted there, I can make this text smaller. Let's say maybe 18, that's way too small, right? Let's go a little bit bigger, say 20. I can center that in the box if I would like to. Again, all these different editing tools, make sure that that box is then centered, right? So that's just how you can add in different shapes and frames into the document. All right, any questions about shapes and frames? Nope. Okay, perfect. I also want to show you that if you wanted to, I'll go ahead and grab this box and I'll go ahead and lay it over top of this text just to show you how this works. You can layer, right? So the one thing I can do is once I pull a shape in, I can actually change the opacity of that shape. So you can see there that when I grab that little toggle, I'm getting a little bit of color there based on the shape that I've created, but you can still see the text that's coming in behind it. Okay, so this is great if you're creating a postcard or something and you have the front of the house and then you want to put a little shape on there that says virtual open house Saturday from 1 to 4, and you can change that opacity so you can still see the house a little bit behind the screen. Okay, so that's there as well. And you also can select that shape, and up top here you have an arrange button. And so I can actually send this to the back or I can move it forward, so you're able to layer the different shapes like you can on some different design studios there as well. Okay, so that is just basics on how to get to the buyer guide, pull over documents, edit those documents, and then once you're finished with editing your document, you want to make sure you come up here, and the first thing is name it properly. All right, so you can see where I get a default name that says Untitled Design. Make sure that you name these designs, because if not, every single design looks to have the same name, and you can't distinguish between what did I just create and what did I create yesterday. So in this case, I would come in here and call this buyer guide, right, virtual, maybe, because if I'm going to do a virtual consultation, I may have a couple extra pages or a few less pages than if I had and I was doing a presentation in someone's house, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say buyer guide, and I will go and name that. As soon as I click off of it, it'll say it has saved. And then on the right-hand side here, you see we have a download button. And so I can click on download, and it'll say, all right, great. Let's go ahead. You have 3 options here. It says a JPEG, a PNG, or a PDF. And I could say, let's go ahead and create a PDF. I want it to be standard web quality. You can change that and say I would like it to be high resolution quality. Here I'm saying, you know, I want all the pages to download together, or you can say I only want to download certain pages of this guide. So you have that option as well. Okay, and then once I do that, I'll then click Start Download, and it will now download those 8 pages that I just customized into a single document. And on my computer here in just a second, we will see that that is going to download down here into my bottom tray. Okay, so that's how you can go in and work on this buyer guide and then customize it and then go all the way through and download it from here as well. All right, so let's take a quick pause there. Yeah, what questions do we have?
I have a question. You were using special typeface from Canva. Can you go back to that?
Sure. So what you're going to do is if you want to add special text types, right? So let me zoom in on let me go to a different document here so we have some space. All right, so pages, again, remember to go down to your little pages button, and let's do this one here, right? So I'm going to click back on the front page. So on this front page, I've got a little bit of blank space, right, as I zoom in the upper right-hand corner here. So if you thought to yourself, hey, I want to put in my logo or I wanted to put something else in here, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the text button over here on the left. Okay, click on text. And underneath of text, you have these 4 different tabs. Now, I believe it defaults to My Library. All right, so when you first click on text, I think this is what you should probably see. These are the texts I've put into my library. But if you go over to banners, banners are the formatted text like we have in Canva, right? So this is where I could come in and say I want it to be whatever, this one right here, right? And I click on it. And once I click on it, it's going to bring it over into my document. And now I can move it around into my document where I need it to be. All right, so if I click off on that and I grab this, let's grab the whole thing. Right now I can move that into that upper right-hand corner. It is obviously too big. So I'm going to grab the corners and I can make that smaller, right? I can drag it down now and kind of center it to where I want it to be. You can see here that once I select it, it allows me to change the color. So again, I could change that to be red if I wanted to. And so it says big sale, and I could change the text, right? So I could then say, you know, virtual consultation, right? Virtual, right? So that's how you're going to add in text. And that's how you get to the banners like you can in Canva. All right, any other questions on what we've done so far? All right, just want to show you down here at the very bottom, it did download my guide now as a PDF. So if I simply click on that, it's going to open up a document, obviously on my computer. And you can see here, right, it has my save changes. So it says custom consultation for David. It's got my logo. It's got my information in here. Obviously, if I would have gone through and completed that, all of my information would show up. And then this is what you're sharing when you're doing that buyer or seller presentation online. So just like I'm sharing my screen with you right now, if you create the PDF and I'm standing there and I'm talking to David and saying, David, great. So obviously you can see my screen, right? We're going to go through this buyer consultation today. I just wanted to set up our call a little bit. This is what we're going to discuss. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk about some commonly used terms, right? So that was a little bit of role play there, but you see how I'm going to use that PDF as part of that consultation. A good question I've been asked this week a couple times is there any way to kind of make this into a PowerPoint type presentation? I have not figured out a way to do that yet. So it is going to be the portrait view that you guys can see here. But again, you have the ability to zoom in, right? So if you're talking about your home list, I can start that conversation and use this as a talking point and then go all the way through and say, hey, David, just wanted to walk you through. This is the process of buying a home. Right? So this is great. I mean, a lot of us have been looking for something like this to walk people through that step-by-step process, and you've got it here. You don't need to go back in. So there's the shape I created, right? And dropped into the background. Now that obviously doesn't look right. It's not in the right spot, but that was just for the training purposes there, right? And so this is the guide that you could go through. You know, again, here's the lending page, financing your future. And so you have some good conversation here about what documentation you may need to get your loan. And so this is what I'm actually using and what I'm showing on my virtual buyer consultation. Okay. All right, so now what I want to show you is let's jump back. So what we'll do is there's a few people that I've seen that have come on a little bit late. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump all the way back out again, and we're going to come back in and we're going to work on the listing presentation next. And there's a few little features of the listing presentation that are kind of cool that I want to show you. So this is kind of for, I think you might have dropped off, it looks like. Yep, might have dropped off. So anyway, if you missed the very beginning, we were in designs, right? So we're going to be in designs here. You can see there is my saved design that I just created. So it says buyer guide virtual. So I might want to call that buyer guide master copy or something along those lines, because if I had a buyer consultation tomorrow with Katie, right, I could simply come here and click on these three little dots, right? And it says you can either rename or make a copy. And so this is where if you do it one time, I can simply hit make a copy, go in there and change the name from David to Katie. And now I've got a virtual consultation that is just for Katie, right? So that's what you're going to do. And that way I don't have to put in my headshot, my information, all that again. All right, so let's go to the listing one now. So again, I'm in designs, click on the plus button, bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to click on print and we're going to click on next. And that's going to take us back into WeBrand again, where we just were. So instead of going into the buyer consultation, we will now go into the listing consultation side of the listing guide. So we'll let that go ahead and load up. All right, so I'll click on listings and I'll click on listing presentation. And it's the exact same process. Once you get in designs and you start using it a little bit, it becomes way easier to use. Once you kind of figure out where the clicks are and where the buttons are. So I'd encourage you to spend a little bit of time today after this call and go play with it now that you're seeing it in action. All right, so let's say we want to do the listing presentation. Same thing, 28 pages here. I'll click on use. It's the exact same setup. where you're going to have a tray over here on the left-hand side that will show you all the pages that are available for the listing consultation. Now, here is what is a little bit different about the listing side, and this is what I wanted to point out here. So same thing, you're going to pull in all your different pages. In here, you have some different pages like this one that says comparable properties. All right, so I'm going to pull that one in, and there's also another one down here. These are kind of what's unique to the listing presentation. So I'm not going to go through that whole process again. You guys just watch me do that. But if I go in here, another one says your media plan. I'm going to go ahead and click on that one as well. And so this is what's unique about the listing consultation. Remember that we have the access to KWLS over here on the left. And so for those that haven't used this yet, this is your kind of your entry point into the MLS data. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the first page that I had pulled over, which was the comps. All right, so I'm going to zoom in on this page. And remember, I said everything on here was editable, including these comparable properties. So let's say you go to the MLS and you find a few comparable properties there just based on your search, right? You don't need to go into the MLS and hit right click and download the picture so that you can upload it into your seller presentation. We can actually save you a step if you do it through designs. So what I can do is if I have that list of 4 comparable properties, I could click on KWLS right down here at the bottom. And when I do, you see that it says search for a KWLS or KW listing. And so here I can come in and I can type in, 404 Dale Road. I have found that sold properties still show up here. And so if you type in sold properties, like this is an investment property that I bought. I bought this house 2 years ago. It's still showing there. So hopefully if you're doing comps, you're seeing sold properties. So let's say 404 Dale Road is one of my comparable properties to the listing presentation that I'm giving. All I do is I find it by typing in the address here. Again, I'm under the KWLS tab. I will see it. I click on select. And one of the advantages is it's going to go ahead and bring in all of the photos that were in the MLS. So again, all I have to do is click on the picture, this first one here. I'll come back over and I've now got that replace button and I can just replace that picture, right? And then I can come into listing details or just quickly type it in, right? So I can come over here and click on the address of the property. Over here under KWLS, you see where it says photos. There's also another tab that says listing details. If I click on listing details, it'll give me, right, some of this information here. And just like I can replace a picture, if I want to replace the street address, I can find that in the listing details. Here it is right here, and click the replace button. And you can see how that now just brought in, right, the address 404 Dale Road. I can move these boxes around a little bit, and there you go. Now I've got comp number 1. Now I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to come back. So I'm under KWLS. I'll hit the back button. Brings me back here, and now I can search for another property. So I'll type in Lake 1140 Lake Heron. Right, I'll hit search. It'll look for that property. It'll say, great, there it is. All right, let's say this is the one I'm going to use. I click select. Again, this is my comp property number 2. I select the graphic here. I come back over and I can say, all right, let's show the front of this property. And I click the front of that property there. So you guys can see how you can actually go in and add the photos directly from the KWLS tab to create your comparable properties page, which I think is pretty helpful. All right. Any questions on that, on how to use the KWLS tab here to add in photos and details about potential comp properties? Good so far? All right, now kind of in the same boat, right? I'm going to scroll down here. Let's go to the last little page I have here. So in this last page, what I wanted to show you was this is your media plan, right? So you can see that it's talking about how you're going to market this property. And again, they've already created it and kind of laid it out for us. And so it's talking about, I'm going to do a coming soon email. I'm going to do an open house invitation. And these are obviously little snapshots of some of the designs you can create for your listings once you get this listing. So what I wanted to show you was when I was playing around with this a couple months ago, I realized that these are actually pictures. And so if this house has been listed in the past, and you could go back over here and find it somewhere, you can actually show them what the marketing would look like with their property. So obviously you're going to take new photos, but I could maybe come in here and say, hey, what I'm going to do is this is what the postcard is going to look like that I'm going to put together, the property brochure. So again, I can click on this photo, come over here and replace it. and it'll actually add in the picture to the marketing material of what the marketing could look like for the listing. And I could do that all the way across the board. So I could say, hey, this is what the flyer is going to look like. And I could come in here and I could pick out different photos. So I can actually make each one of these different pictures on the flyer a different one of the pictures from my listing or my upcoming listing, right? And then when you're showing them that listing consultation, you can say, hey, so check this out. You know, this is what it's going to look like. This is the property brochure that I'll create for your listing. This is the flyer I can create for your listing. And so you can actually use that KWLS tab or upload photos, right? So you can come over here and say add images if it's not in KWLS and do the same thing and replace those images there. So you're just able to customize this and show that consumer what your marketing would actually look like for that listing. Okay. Any questions on that at all?
Is this going to be on a video?
I do believe David does have it streaming right now, Facebook Live. And then he mentioned before the call that he's also putting together a YouTube channel, and all the videos will be hosted there. So you'll be able to go back and watch.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Yeah, so on the buyer side, there are several pages on the buyer side where you can do the same thing. And so, yes, that KWLS tab is available to you on both the buyer and on the seller tab. So good question there. All right, so same thing. You know, in this case, I already did it for the buyer guide, so I'm not going to go through and add all the different pages, but you guys will see. Oh, sorry, that was my fault. I'm zooming out the wrong way. You guys will see down here once I click off of this, right? I've got 3 pages, but let's say I had a whole bunch of them, right? Works the same way on the listing side. I can pull this up and see all my different documents. Remember to always delete out the blank page that KW starts it out with. And then I'm left with these 2 final pages. And I'll say, yes, I've got these 2 documents here. And now I could come up top here and click on download. Same thing we did before. Download as a PDF, start download. And then I've got a nice PDF that I could share with somebody on a Zoom call or something else, and have that presentation done that way. Okay. Questions? Let's go ahead and just kind of open it up generally. Any questions about buying and selling guides, how to get to them, how to add text, how to add photos, how to customize it, how to download it? I know that seemed like a lot, and that's why we have that recording, which is good. But I just highly encourage you, go play with it for a few minutes. And I think once you do, you start to realizing, just like Canva. When I first started using Canva, I was like, where is the button? I don't know where this is. But once you start using it, you quickly realize the power of the tool that you have there in front of you. Questions at all? Someone asked, could you add live links to the online presentation? You can't do it this way because it is a PDF, right? So the PDF is then flat. But you obviously could easily follow up with somebody when you're doing a virtual consultation. Again, let me pull up this document here. So this is what we would be looking at when I'm actually doing the consultation with somebody. Now, one of the advantages of if you use a product like Zoom, you could easily put a link in the chat and say, hey, so if you would like the link to my lender, I just put it in the chat feature. But this document here is a flat PDF, so you're not able to put in a hyperlink into this document the way that we've done it here. Let's see, I see some other chats coming in. Let's see what we got. What's the Facebook page this will be posted to, David? That'll be the KW West Virginia Technology Mastermind page, correct?
Yeah, I'm posting in the link right now, and we'll have a YouTube channel up and running next week with all the recordings.
Perfect. So that'll be in there as well. One last thing, guys, I wanted to show you. This doesn't work for every single market, but you know, one of the other pages. And again, so if I wanted to go back and add a page, and definitely do, right? I would never do a 2-page presentation unless I was just having a conversation with somebody about the comps, right? In that case, I could go in here and just pull in that one page and just use that page. But there's also another one in here that said snapshots. So let me show you this to you real quick. So if I had this page and say what's happening in Barton Hills, this will pull over a document. And in that, you will see that we have something that are called market snapshots, right? So if I zoom in here, you can see that this one is talking about a neighborhood in Austin that is Barton Hills, right? Well, that obviously doesn't apply to me. That's not the neighborhood that I want to show information for. So let me show you how you can replace this graphic right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on that little graphic. And when I do, I'm going to go back down to that KWLS tab. So this is where we were able to search for a listing and pull in a listing, but it's also a place where we can get these snapshots. When I click on KWLS, you typically come to this screen here where it says listing or snapshots, 2 different tabs. A lot of people miss this. So if you click on snapshots, it'll say, okay, search for a neighborhood, right? And this is where I could type in a neighborhood like, let me do Ben Oaks. It's a neighborhood that's out here near me. So I'll do Ben Oaks and I'll do Maryland and hit the little search bar here. And it'll say, all right, here's your different neighborhoods. And here's the one for Ben Oaks where I live over here in Severna Park, Maryland. So step 1 is find your neighborhood. You'll click the little down arrow here and it'll take just a second. And it's gonna go through and create the different market snapshots for the neighborhood. And you can see it just populated right there. So this is a rather small neighborhood. That's why I'm getting some total pending, because there are no pending properties. There's only 1 active in there. But it also creates this format as well. So it creates 2 formats of these market snaps for you to use, because different marketing materials, some of the postcards use this format here. There's actually a 3rd one, which is basically a map of Ben Oaks. So what I'm able to do is I can see that it's this graphic that has a little bit of the map and then the snapshot. Again, click on it, come back over here, and you'll see when I hover over top of this graphic, I then have the replace image button. And I can click replace image. And now over here, right, for my actual listing presentation I'm giving somebody, it's showing Ben Oaks, the neighborhood in which I'm giving my listing presentation for, with stats about Ben Oaks, okay? So that's the way that you pull in these different snapshots and replace some of that data that's in there. Now, right now, these are not editable. So you're basically, you get the information that is given to you from the system, and some of the larger neighborhoods work really well because there's a lot of data in there. But in this neighborhood, this is actually correct. I mean, that is the average sales price in that neighborhood. And there is only 1 active property on the market, and it came on yesterday. So that actually is pulling accurate data. So NA is just there because there is nothing that is pending, and sold price is coming through. I'm not sure if that's just because there's not enough data to give you that number, but that's how you can also do those market snapshots. Okay. So basically, again, just recapping, go to designs, pick your buyer and seller templates, choose which documents you want, move them over here, use this pages button at the bottom to rearrange your pages. So if I wanted that market snapshot first, I can make that the first thing that people see. And once I edit it, go back and click on the document from this little tray down here, and you'll see all those different documents there that you've already worked on and edited. And then whenever you're finished, go ahead and click on download. David, what did I miss?
You were pretty thorough in there. A couple things I just added into the chat room, but you ended up tying back to it, like being able to add and upload your own photos, right? When it comes to photos, you'll be sensitive to who your audience is. I mean, there's a lot of stock photos up there, but if you got single or divorcees and some of these portraits to play like happy family life. So think about that if you're customizing your presentation a little bit to who your audience might be.
Exactly. Yeah, good point.
Read through these pages. Right? I think a lot of mistakes that people make when we create anything is we don't do our own due diligence in what we're presenting, and you can be caught off guard when somebody sees something that you might have missed. So absolutely be thorough, go through it and clean it up and make sure it sounds like it's coming from you and reflecting where you are. You don't want to be in a bad spot. Kyle was mentioned we can't edit those snapshots right now, but theoretically you could go in, you could overlay a shape or an image, add a text box to update some of those statistics if you had to.
That's a very good point. So what David was saying there is if you add something like this credentials or awards page, right? They've got some generic stuff in there about KW. Make sure you edit this page, right? Because it doesn't make any sort of sense. The old presentations, anyone that's been around KW for a while that had the My KW presentations over in Market Leader, they were all filled with like pig Latin. It wasn't even real words. And I can't tell you how many agents I'd see that were walking out the door and they didn't look at the last page and realize the reviews were all a bunch of made up letters. All right, well, that's definitely not something you want to hand off to somebody. So as David said, please go through and read each one of these pages and edit whatever needs to be edited.
Now, Kyle, you had mentioned in the buyer's guides and you had showed a timeline, and I have not checked on this, and maybe you have. Do those timelines mirror the buyer and seller guides that we now see on the apps or the websites? So
they're similar, but they do not mirror exactly.
Okay.
So especially if you've obviously gone in and rearranged your guide, that's definitely gonna be out of whack. There's actually more details here than there is in those other guides. And so, using that point by point, but it is very similar, right? If your guide says, start with the agent and then start with the lender, I believe the guides actually default to, financing first and then picking an agent second, right? So that's where you want to switch that, because in this document it says you want to pick an agent first. So good question.
Right. So that goes back to mirroring your information across all platforms, right?
Yeah.
So if you've
Exactly.
changed or edited or you want to make sure it's 100% saying the same thing that says on your website, make sure that if you're using that material in your presentation, that you've taken the time to edit those out as well.
I thought David made a great point there, and I saw this question was asked. So, I like this format here. So what David was saying, I just want to kind of show you guys is, again, it says average sold price, it says NA, okay? So I can go up here actually and grab a little shape, right? Let's say it's gonna be this little square, and I click on that square and it brings it into my screen, right? And then I can actually bring it up top here, and I can shrink it down and basically just cover up that number, right? Go back up here, change the color, make it black, right? So I think that's actually not the right black. Let's pick this one. Let's see, click on the box. Right, and then from there, I can now add some text, and maybe I'm going to add a little bit of body text here, and I can pull this up here. I can change the text, right? So right now I'm kind of like black on black, but if I click up here and I click on white, I can change that to white, and now I can type in 595,000. Okay, so that's what David was saying, is that's how you can kind of go through right now and customize some of this information to match the actual numbers.
With the understand, this platform is completely wide open for you guys. There's really nothing you can't do with it if you take the time to just mess around with it and leverage it. Don't keep yourself, you very easily think outside the box, right? And create anything you need in here with a little bit of creativity.
Right. Absolutely. Even these ones here, right? I mean, or the comp page, even though it says comps, that could be your recently sold properties.
Yep.
Right. It's just giving you a format of a couple boxes and some text and some language in there. And so like David said, any of these are just the starting point. You can change all the pictures, all the text, and they can really become anything you want it to become. So there's a couple nice, last pages that you can add in there where you can see here it has someone's signature, right? Which is kind of funny. So on that one there, that's why you have the little drawing tab up top. So if you wanted to replace, whatever this generic signature is for this agent here, you could go up and use this little drawing tab and actually draw, right, your little signature and add that down to the bottom. So everything in here is customizable. You just have to get used to the different clicks. And I found it to be a really, really awesome tool. And I think in this moment right now, this is a way that you can kind of pull together a really nice presentation to show on the computer and lead you through your buyer and your seller consultation.
Yeah, and for those of you with statistics or local stats, you can upload, graphics and docs, right? Or just PDF overlays. I mean, anything you can do in Canva, for the most part, you can do in here, right? So if there are other pages that you utilize, you can upload those to your library and insert those documents in those pages.
Absolutely. I just saw a question. It was kind of maybe the last one here, because now we're down to the last minute or so, but someone had asked, can you upload another presentation that you use? You can. Now this tool, it depends on how messy that graphic is, right? If there's a lot of text overlay, but you will see here that when I go back to designs and I click the plus button, there is an import PDF button here. And so you are able to upload a PDF, a flat PDF of maybe a presentation that you're currently using, and Command will try to break that up and make it fully editable to you. So it'll try to break up the text and all the graphics, and you're able to replace the text and graphics or add pages from the guide into that PDF that you're already using. So very good question. And yeah, you can kind of get the best of both worlds.
When it comes to utilizing that import PDF, the most original sources possible is the best way that it'll allow you to leverage and break it apart. If you basically did a screen capture off of something online, it's not going to break it out to where you can edit it too well and changing things unless you're doing overlays and formats. But if you have original source, it could theoretically even let you change the text on that original PDF.
Yep. So, yep, just keep that in mind. That works great for like postcards and stuff too. A lot of those smaller documents or maybe flyers that you use, a lot of people are using that import PDF button as well. So I hope that was valuable to you guys on how to get in there and kind of do some more customization and work on your different guides. And I'm available on the regional Facebook page if anyone has questions, and happy to help from there.
Yeah, well, listen, Kyle, we really appreciate your time. This was invaluable information for everybody, and we do appreciate it. We ran out of time, but I'll either do a separate video or post something on that. You can download these PDFs like any other PDFs, and you could even host them on your website or on landing pages. So I'll create something, a little bit of a workaround for that to show you guys how, if you want to take this even further and host some of the things that you've created, PDFs like your presentation, and put them on your website or online.
Perfect.
So everybody,
Great idea.
remember, tomorrow we kick back to a regional training event. So you'll all see an invite from the region to our 10 a.m. sessions for tomorrow. And I appreciate all of your time and coming in, as well as our instructors. And we will see you all next week.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.